Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whichever time of the day you're watching this show. My name is Jones. I am the CEO, founder of the 501c3 not for profit Inmates for Change. Inmates for Change is dedicated to breaking the bondage of destructive thinking, and what we offer are reentry services for individuals returning home from incarceration and also individuals who are in the community with a felony conviction in their background or maybe more, and they're running into significant challenges securing employment, housing, education, and substance abuse counseling. Now, what Inmates for Change does is we offer a 6 to 24 week program, rehabilitation educational program that's entitled Path to Purpose. And in these workshops, they run around 90 minutes and they run 3 days a week. What we do is we offer them as a supplement to existing programs that are inside of organizations who are in the social services and educational industries. Now, we provide services that introduce participants to critical thinking, peaceful conflict resolution, positive self imagery, relationship issues, spiritual connectedness, God consciousness with a slash mindfulness. We also offer substance abuse counseling as well as referral to wraparound services. We offer individuals an opportunity to secure and participate in job training programs and workforce development. What we do with Inmates for Change is when we are involved with participants, as we use the term, because they're either clients, residents, or patients in some instances, and even students. We track them for around 2 years to make sure that their trajectory is steady on track for what their goals were when we set up their goal plan upon the initial assessment. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to speak with a gentleman, Mr. Augie Ghilarducci. Now, Augie is I'm going to let him tell you because there's so many times, Augie, and I apologize, I mix your title up with your duties and responsibilities. So let me just start out with the first introduction. This gentleman is Mr. Augie Ghilarducci. He's with Second Opportunity L3C Services. I hope I'm saying it right, man. I have Augie, help me out here. Tell us who you
You're
are.
fine. You're fine. My name is Augie Ghilarducci, and I'm the Vice President for Training and Development at Second Opportunity L3C. And an L3C it's an offshoot of a nonprofit. It's a low-profit company with a social mission, and our social mission is principally in helping people in the area of reentry.
Okay, that sounds pretty descriptive along the lines of what Inmates for Change does, especially with the low profit. I think I'm going to work through that one with you and get a chance to talk with you. So, as director of training at Second Opportunity, and I know you guys provide life skills and employment training and that type of thing, but can you give us a little bit more about what you offer for services for individuals who are interested in coming on board and seeing what you guys are offering?
So we do work both inside and outside of prisons and jails. We'll do programming, live programming inside the facilities, and then we also work in the reentry field with probation departments, halfway houses, and other organizations that provide some sort of a stepping stone from incarceration back into society. And our programming initially was done solely through in-person presentations. But with COVID, one of the things that's happened is that now the jails and prisons are being more accommodating to doing virtual programming, just like this. So we would do it through Zoom or WebEx, which gives us the opportunity to provide our materials and programming to those that are incarcerated that otherwise wouldn't be seeing anybody, because through this pandemic, the jails and prisons have been very restrictive about letting anybody in for fear of spreading it into a place where people are closely confined.
Okay, that seems to me.
The other thing we do, I'm sorry, Jones, the other thing that we do is we provide assistance on the outside. So upon release, or those that are already out, we focus on job placement, And we also provide assistance as far as referrals for either housing or substance abuse recovery services.
Okay. And that was a part of what my question was going to be, but I see that you were already there with me, where I was going to ask along the lines of your referral for employment. Are you all working along the lines of offering individuals labor intensive positioning, or is it more in the IT field, or do you have some type of big selection for them to work through a variety? How does it work at Second Opportunity?
It depends upon their skill set and what it is that they want to be involved
Right.
in. So I will say that we can offer in numerous fields, but one of the things that I've learned in my lived experience is that our skill set, as we're incarcerated, our skill set becomes less and less relevant due to technology and other things that have gone on. So oftentimes what we do is what is referred to, we call the parallel path, that will help somebody to find short-term employment to last for 3 or 4 months, and at the same time will help them enroll in a program, bring their skill set current, which could be in the IT field, it could be in the welding field, it could be with a CDL, any of those types of things. But the idea of the parallel path is to say that we can build, as they say, build our work muscle as we get back into society and get used to putting in 8 or 9 hours a day, being actively engaged mentally, something that doesn't happen while we're away for an extended period of time. And at the same time, then be going to school or a training program at no cost. These are all funded programs in order to develop some skills to then move on after that 3 or 4 months into a career that's of interest to us and also pays much better, provides benefits and some sort of an outlook into the future.
You know, as I listened through all of that, my question that popped up was, would there be fees involved for the participant? And you answered that question. You told me no, that these are all funded for them. Now, is that for the first part of the employment that works with the funding? And once they move into more gainful, better employment, for lack of a better term, does the funding still follow them, or is it just for that first initial job setup training thing that they go through?
Now, there's no fees at any point. I mean, we don't charge any fees for any of the work that we do. So, as an example, the training programs, and there's many different fields people can select from. They're already funded, most of it through federal programs, some through state and local programs. Some of the work is performed at community colleges. Some of it is through independent training organizations. And what we do is we help the person that we're working with, we help them identify where their interests are using a tool called the ONET, which was developed by the Department of Labor. Again, no cost, but using the things that they're interested in, we then hone in on the type of skills that they want to have because they want to be in a particular career. And then we help them to enroll in that program. But the programs are such that they actually provide the books and other materials that are needed. If you're getting into something, for example, like welding, they'll provide you with the outfit, the helmet, the gloves, everything that you need. So there's nothing, at no point is it costing somebody to be involved in these type of programs. Many of the programs provide a transportation allowance to be able to show up every day and go through the training. And what they say is they want the people to be focused solely on getting the education and training that they're there for without having to worry about how they're going to get back home or how they're going to get there in the morning. Most of the programs actually will provide like a breakfast and a lunch, again, to alleviate any of those concerns.
Okay. All right. You know, that is a great effort as well as organization and motivating for individuals. Leads me to the question, where are you located? Do you have a home site where you operate from? And are you working in the collar counties of Cook, or are you working with Cook County and all of the prisons involved statewide, or how's it working?
So we have our main office is in Elmhurst, so right off of 290, so right off of the Eisenhower, very convenient to get to. We also have a number of locations in the city because we do most of our work is done in Cook County.
Okay.
That having been said, we also work. I'm in Kane County Jail, Kendall County Jail. Go as far south as the Central Illinois. Been in Woodford County Jail, and we are doing some work now with the Illinois Department of Corrections. We're early in the process with them, but we've been doing some presentations through WebEx inside various prisons around the state.
With all that being said, I would like to know, how does an individual become eligible to become part of the services that you all provide? And is that, I know there's a website information and there's some contact information. Being that this is the first show for Inmates for Change with the Zoom type of format, I'm going to be honest, I don't even know how to pull your information up. So I'm going to have to rely on you right now. And as my producer, here's where we are, and perhaps we can get it in before the show is over. Can you give us some contact information about and how to visit the website with Second Opportunity?
Sure. So first step could be to go to the website,
Okay.
which is 2ndopp.com,
Okay.
secondop.com.
Second up.
Or they can email me directly at Augie, Augie, at 2ndopp.com. Or they can call us at 847-257-2713.
Okay, that's quite a bit of information. And what I want to do for right now, a lot of times when my viewers are listening or watching, they don't have a pen handy. So I want to let the viewer know that we're going to put this information up again during the show. But right now, I just want to get back to what we're doing here. Now, Augie, what's an average day like inside the program that you guys are offering?
Well, the programs, these are programs that I developed while I was away. I was incarcerated for almost 13 years. And as I was getting closer to reentry, say the last 3 or 4 years, and starting to think about what I was going to do to resume or restart my life, I developed programs primarily to try to figure out the path that I wanted to follow. And one thing led to another, and I started to instruct the material to fellow inmates. And then it became something that was fairly widespread. So it's really about helping a person to identify their path. We provide a lot of information, a lot of, we have workbooks, and there's a lot of thought-provoking questions, but we help people to identify what the potential barriers will be in order to plan to deal with or overcome those barriers. We help, as I said before, to determine what sort of career path they might want to be on, and help to identify training to be on that career path. We do have it's called Values Aligned Goal Setting, which is a comprehensive goal setting program to determine not just the professional side of where do I want to work, but we do it in a balanced life approach to recognize that we probably have, upon release, some issues where we're going to have to rebuild some relationships or start a lot of new relationships, depending on how long we've been gone and that type of thing. So it's really a program that's been put together through the eyes of somebody that's been through the system, gone through the halfway house, gone through home confinement, and then gotten back to work. I have colleagues that I work with that have contributed other things that are meaningful, things about some of the trauma that we incur while we're incarcerated and how that may manifest itself when we try to reintegrate. So some examples, and really just showing that it's normal and we can feel comfortable about that. We provide peer support we're doing it virtually now, but we provide peer support where a group of formerly incarcerated individuals can sit around and virtually, but talk about the challenges that they're facing, share experiences, both good and bad, and kind of know that we support each other because we're walking down that same path.
Wow. I'm going to tell you that's inspiring in this context. And hearing you say that you were developing this program or your services line up as well as the in-depth type of attention to detail that you offer with each one of these types of conditions that we're going to face coming out. As everyone well knows, I'm a returning citizen also, and seeing how you've turned your life around with this program, one of the things I don't hear a lot of, but I know it's present because I can see the change. I didn't know you before you went in for your incarceration during your term, but coming out, I know there was some kind of spiritual connectedness that had to be involved going in to what you were trying to produce to bring out. Would you care to shed a little light on that with us?
Sure. I mean, I was blessed to be included in a magazine called Victorious Living, which is distributed throughout jails and prisons. And I actually get letters from people that are incarcerated because my story is in there. And a major part of my story is how I rediscovered my faith during incarceration.
Wow.
And it was my faith that allowed me to persevere and really to face some of the many dark days, as you well know.
Yes, sir.
And some of the times that I was actually sentenced to 190 months. And in the beginning, I couldn't even fathom that amount of time. I couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. I couldn't imagine ever getting there. And so it was my faith that helped me get through it. And as I started to think about my process, I started to think in more along the lines of what I didn't want to do when I got out. So personally, professionally, spiritually, physically, I started to think about the mistakes I had made before I went in and identify those things that I didn't want, habits or behaviors that I didn't want to assume upon release.
Exactly.
And I tried to then clarify what would bring me some happiness in those areas. And that's really how this material started. I was doing a lot of writing and reading and researching and thinking for my own reentry. I never anticipated that it would be something that I would be teaching to fellow inmates. And I never, even upon release, I never thought that this is what I would be doing professionally.
You know, our stories are very similar when you mentioned the parallel path as well as my experience during my term. I was in a program down at Sheridan, and they were offering a drug rehabilitation component inside the prison. But you also got a chance to learn some vocational trade skills and entry-level computers and get your GED as well. And one of the things I was thinking while I was going through there is what we hear all the time inside of AA, NA, and CA is Bozo will get this, but Einstein will miss it. You know, and I'm an Einstein, and I know I'm an Einstein, you know. And so I'm going into the program, and I'm trying to reinvent the wheel with all of this super analytical thinking, or pseudo analytical thinking, I should say. And one of the staff members mentioned to me and said, why don't you just give it a chance? You know, just give it a chance. And I, like you, was developing a program while I was during my term, how to keep me from coming back in, as well as finding the type of Jones out there in the teeming millions that we're going to be encountering, thousands in a more realistic case, in some cases hundreds, but how to get them more directly involved in changing their own lives. And part of the connection of coming through, when I hear your story, I had great similarities. I could write it almost or even say it in mouth sync with what you were saying, because I'm like, yeah, that happened for me as well. It just like that. It happened just like that. So does your organization offer employment assistance with successful completion of your program? I know that you help them get into the first leg of introduction to the labor force and workforce, but does Second Opportunity offer employment assistance with the successful completion of the program? And how long does it last? How long is a program consistent of before you decide to refer them over to vocational training?
Our program would be 2 times a week, and we'd be done in 8 weeks.
Okay.
And yes, we do provide employment assistance. I have been fortunate to develop a network of employers that will hire people that have backgrounds and we're able to refer and get people working very quickly. I mean, Jones, one of the things that I tell people right off the bat, and I say this with with a high degree of confidence, an extreme degree of confidence, that if you're ready, willing, and able to work, we'll get you to work.
Yes, sir.
The background is not going to be a barrier.
Yes, sir.
And although I carry the flag for currently and formerly incarcerated people because that's me, that's the population I belong to, we also do a considerable amount of work in substance abuse recovery centers. And what I found there when I start to do that work is that probably 70-80% of those that are in the recovery centers also have jail or prison in their background. Mm-hmm. So it's an additional barrier that they have to deal with, but fundamentally the process becomes the same. It's just that they've got to pay special attention to protecting their sobriety, which in many ways enhances what our standard program would be, to be more aware of not putting ourselves into careers that could cause a relapse, relationships that could cause a relapse, behaviors that could cause a relapse, and it all becomes a part of that plan that they develop, their goal setting plan and the plan that they're, the path that they're going to move forward on.
That's some amazing stuff. We do similar work in the industry, and I'm proud to hear that not only are you passionate about the work, but you're dedicating your life to it. And, that makes me feel good, because a lot of times we find ourselves looking at, am I the only one out here that's really trying to do something? We understand the prison industrial complex and how it's set up for just scooping individuals up by the pound, just grabbing them up, boom, grabbing them up. And what Second Opportunity, as well as Inmates for Change, is offering is the individual who is genuinely interested in changing their lives. This individual will get 110% of the effort from organizations like Second Opportunity and Inmates for Change. That's not to say other organizations are not doing it, and other individuals inside those organizations are somewhere lost in the shuffle. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just expressing that there's the hope that it's alive. We are here, and we're here for you, and we want you to be the best you that you can be. Now let me kind of switch a little gear here for the second here, and statistically, what would you consider the success rate to be? And I know that's kind of a tricky question. With Inmates for Change, we see around 100 clients a year. I'm fortunate of maybe 10 to 15 of them get what we're talking about, even though they seem to be the type of individual we're looking for at the onset with the intake assessment. It's something about the lifelong conditioning of the pattern of dysfunctional thinking that seems to get in the way, and they tend to get kind of lax in what their purpose and focus is on the program, but they also are trying to escape a lifetime conditioning of this thinking, the peer pressure. They want to see what Main Pookie Dude and them are still doing out there on the corner. Some of them have moved out of the neighborhood, but their mother still stays in the neighborhood where they got into most of the trouble and conflicts were. And our job is pretty tough because, as you say, 2 to 3 days a week, 90 minutes a day for 6 to 8 weeks. In my case, 6 to 24 weeks. Sometimes we need more, but we're making progress. So what would you consider a success rate to be? Let's look at first industry standards from what your view is, and then second, if you decide to, give us what you feel Second Opportunity is doing along the lines of statistical success rates.
So the numbers are ugly in the industry, right? That's Recidivism right. Is about 75%, depending upon who's tracking and what have you. I saw something the other day that I couldn't get my mind around. There's more than 62,000 people every year that go into Cook County Jail.
Yeah.
Now, some may only stay a day or two and be bonded out, but you're talking about, I mean, that's a good sized city that's being incarcerated every year. And so, as you say, Jones, the challenge is because, like you, we don't turn people away. If they want to participate, we want them, we welcome them, we'll work with them. But there's some people that have made the decision that they really aren't looking to get into the mainstream society, and that they may return to some form of shortcut behavior, criminal activity. And then there's others that they're fortunate from the standpoint they really don't have a need. Maybe they had money saved, maybe they've got a working spouse, whatever it might be. So we try to focus on that large group in the middle between those two outliers to identify those that are ready, willing, and able, and help them to find the correct path. We do track our information about people that we get employed, people that we get enrolled in training. We've got some real nice material there that we're able to show others, what our results are there. The big problem that we do a lot of work in jails, and jails don't do a good job of keeping track of people when they're released. So in a prison system, and we are developing some real metrics that we'll be able to share at some point. It's going to take a year or two to get it to where we can actually show a deep enough sampling. But with the jails, really, when they release somebody from a jail, they only know if they've recidivated if they come back to that jail. They don't follow them like a probation or a parole office might follow for several years to know that they're working, to know that where they're living, to know those type that they haven't reoffended. So it's a complicated way to put this stuff together because I think our work brings great value inside the jails, because there's quite a few that, many will go on to the IDOC, but there's still quite a few that will be released out from the jail to serve their time there. And they have that out date, they need assistance. And that's why I think we bring value there as well.
Yes, sir. Well said. Well said. And that's just one of the challenges that we face in social services, reentry services, is how the deck is stacked. And a lot of this, and I know for my personal and professional opinion as well as experience, is that I know when an individual is determined to make it, I make this comment on my show kind of regularly, there's nothing more powerful on this earth than a made-up mind. Nothing on this earth is more powerful than a made-up mind. And when our participants check their own background and experience, every time they made up their mind, whether it was, I'm not going anywhere today I'm going to come up, I'm going to get closer to this girl I've been trying to get involved with, and this kind of thing. Whenever they made up their mind, that's exactly what they accomplished. And for them to have this innate fear of moving forward and trying to step into the unknown, but not trusting enough that an individual who is seemingly getting paid well, because we look professional, we dress professional. I'm the first one to tell you, there's not a whole lot of money in social services. This is a calling. You have to be passionate about the work first, but secondly, it's a calling. It's not, you're not going to get rich here, but seeing the rewarding type of transmitting of information and helping an individual grow, watching them move on forward through life productively, and coming back to share the good news, to me personally, that's my pay. And I get into it sometimes with my wife, that you're working all these hours and you're not doing such this, and baby, God got us. We're gonna make what we're supposed to have the way that we need it. That's where it is for me at home. So this leads me to my next question. Do you have any views on the change or evolution of candidates since your first coming on board to the present? Now, let me clarify it so that you can get me on what I'm speaking of. I remember when I first started in this industry around 10 years ago, and we seemed to have individuals who were a bit reluctant to even get involved in taking action to activate their own lives. And now, from what I'm seeing as a turn of events of the metamorphosis of our client base on the whole, and this is not independently or individually, just on the whole, individuals are so resistant to something not only new, but the challenge of, I got to work at this to get it going. And that's the change that I'm seeing now. I see a lot of this social model type of social services being implemented. I don't particularly agree with it, but I can work around it sometimes. And sometimes I just have to do like the guy told me when I was incarcerated, and he was saying, just let the process. Everything is not you're in or you're out. That's the kind of rigid thinking that I have. That's my experience. And I'm learning now at 65 years old how to be a little bit more flexible. It's uncomfortable for me. I'm going to tell you. You're either in or you're out. And that's where I am. But thank God I have a staff with me that are saying, Jones, we need to come and give this individual one more opportunity. We need to give them a chance to try to let the process, let the change. Okay, I'm gonna hold you all to it, and especially that individual that we're talking about or with at that time, I'm really gonna hold you to it. So, getting back to the question, do you have any views on the change or evolution of candidates since you're first coming on board and up to the present?
I draw back from the guys that I was locked up with when I started to instruct these programs that, I stay in contact through Facebook. I'm not a Facebook guy that takes pictures of my dinner to show you what I ate, but I do send a lot of messengers to guys that are doing well, or those that are reaching out because they're struggling. And Jones, I look at it, there's the message and the messenger, right? And the message is whatever material, whatever curriculum we're using, whatever it might be, doesn't matter. It's the messenger that makes a difference.
I agree.
And for me, just like with you, when I do the first session, if I go into a jail or a prison, the first session, and I tell them, I wore those shower shoes. I know what it's like to be sitting there thinking about what your family's doing and how you're not there to be able to provide assistance. I know what it's like to go through not being home for Christmas or birthdays or graduate. I get all that. So I'm you and you're me. And so I'm here to tell you that there is something beyond this, but nobody's going to walk up and hand it to you. Nobody's going to bring you a suitcase filled with wishes. It's something that we have additional challenges and barriers because of the mistakes that we've made and the fact that we've been incarcerated. But that's not the end of it. It just causes us to be more focused on the path that we get on. And that's really what my message is to say, I get it. I've been through what you've been through what I've been through. But what I can share with you is a message of hope, saying I'm surrounded by men and women that are doing terrific, despite the fact that they were incarcerated, that they're making a difference in many, many, many ways. It could be that, like you, that are engaged in the social services and helping people to move forward. It could be that they've gotten out and become successful and they now own a company. And from that company, they're hiring people with backgrounds.
That's right.
So, and I like to share those stories. I like to talk about some of those people that I stay in contact with, old cellmates that are doing terrific, people that I was away with that are doing terrific. I get emails and letters all the time from people that have gone through our programs that, tell me what they're up to. And I like to share those things. And so I think that fundamentally, while I do agree it's a different world now, the world has changed dramatically, as far as I'm concerned, starting January 1st of 2020. And so, but I think fundamentally, incarcerated individuals have the same basic concerns. And that's, what am I going to do when I get out? How am I going to get back on my feet? I don't want to come back. All the years I was away, I'm sure I met thousands of guys. And not one of them, when they left, said, okay, I'll see you soon. I'll be back. Everybody leaves saying the same thing. I'm never coming back to this. But to walk out with just that thought and not a plan or a program on how that's going to happen, that's why recidivism, I think, is so high, is because the system needs to do a better job on the inside, getting people prepared and linking them with resources upon release for the fundamental things: employment, housing, counseling, clothing, whatever it might be. And until we can build that bridge, and that's what you and I work on doing, until we can get that bridge built that can impact many people, there's always going to be that high number that end up going back because they had no support or nobody that's showing them the path that they should be on.
Wow. That's well said. And believe it or not, I've got questions for you, and I don't believe you are even aware of what kind of scripting is going on with the questions. I'm just shooting them out at you, and you're dancing, man. I'm gonna tell you, you are dancing. Let me take a break right now, give you a chance to catch your breath. And what I want to do is put your contact information back on the screen to let my viewers know that you can be reached. That's Augie Ghilarducci. He's the Vice President of Training and Development. His phone is 847 257 2713. Let me repeat it. I know you see it, but I'm going to say it. 847 257 2713. They're taking email, Augie personally, at Augie, Augie, at secondop. That's 2ndopp.com. Augie at 2ndopp.com. And the website is secondop.com. That's 2ndopp.com. So the difference in the website and the email is Augie at is not in it. So the website is secondop.com and the email is Augie at secondop.com. The phone number 847-257-2713. Let's get back to you, Augie, if you don't mind. I hope you caught your breath.
Good.
Okay, that's great. That's great. What's on the horizon for the future developments with Second Opportunity and you all's impact in the industry, as well as opening up new veins, if any, of not only exploration but collaborative efforts and that type of thing?
So actually, there's a lot going on.
Good. We got about good 35 minutes left.
I'm sorry?
I said that's great. We have a good 35 minutes left.
Okay.
Get it all in.
So we've been converting our material to be placed on tablets inside jails and prisons.
Okay.
Is something that's really expanding rapidly. I read an article that says that within the next 3 years now, there should be 2 million tablets deployed in jails and prisons around the country. And the problem that we have is we're situated right now to do everything in person limits us to geography, and there's only so many hours in a day and those types of things. And obviously the expense of lengthy travel. So we're now getting our material put onto tablets so that we can be on, I'm guessing within a year we should be on 500,000 different tablets inside jails and prisons. And we're contacting the prisons or jails about doing a virtual workshop before the men and women actually start to do the programming on the tablet, to do a 2-hour workshop to kind of share our story, talk about where there's benefit on the material, and then come back into a workshop, say 6 or 8 or 10 weeks later after they've gone through all the material on the tablet, and do kind of a wrap-up workshop. So they're walking out of there with a completed workbook that has a plan for them, and then also contact information for the fundamental services of employment, housing, and if they need substance abuse recovery services as well. And so we're preparing to have those types of resources available in any states where the tablets will be. The other thing that we're doing, Jones, that's way beyond my knowledge of technology, is we're putting the material into a cloud-based format that you'll be able to access through the website. So while the tablets are great for those that are currently incarcerated, if that's where we leave it at, those that aren't currently incarcerated, like people that were incarcerated, the phrase that I like to use is people that have gotten out and for whatever reason haven't been able to gain any traction. They can access the same programs, the same materials, the same ability to get referrals for the resources we're talking about through the website. And so we're right now getting things put into the correct format so it can be placed onto these cloud-based platforms that people will be able to come to access the material right through our website. And so another thing that necessitates is that we're redoing the website. So if your viewers right now go to the website, it's fine, it's functional, it's a fine website, but sometime at the beginning of the year, it's going to be completely relaunched, a lot more dynamic, a lot more video, a lot more interactive capabilities. And so that's going on simultaneously. So we've got those things happening. And then the other thing is that I'm in the process of finishing a book that I've been working on. I actually started it while I was locked up. And I tell people it's not a prison tell-all. My life isn't glamorous enough to have one of those. What it is it tells, my story of how I ended up incarcerated, how I used that as a time to kind of remake myself and my thoughts. But this whole second half of the book talks about, through the eyes of somebody that's gone from the inside and come out, what are some of the things that can be going on in society to help support that process, as far as employment, as far as housing, that stuff, because, we're going to come out and we're going to be your neighbors. 95% of everybody who's locked up is coming out at some point. So you're going to be standing next to us in a line in a grocery store, or sitting next to us in a church, or at a school event, or whatever it might be. So there's benefit for society to be involved in this. And I have some very distinct thoughts about how employers can be a main driver in this, because companies, their number one purpose is, except obviously nonprofits, but the number one purpose for a company is to make money. And the research shows that hiring formerly incarcerated people has a lower turnover rate, which then turns into a lower cost to the employer. And we also are able to fill some of the high demand positions that there aren't enough people filling right now. So I think that employers can play a major role in this transition from incarceration into mainstream society. So those are the things that we're working on right now that have us quite busy, but incredibly excited. I never, ever imagined, as I was doing this stuff locked up, that it would actually be something that becomes my career, something that I'm passionate about, kind of the driving force of what I do.
Yes, man. I'll tell you, that's a mouthful, and I'm also going to give this. I'm hanging on every word that you're saying, Augie. Believe it or not, I truly am. It's just amazing how I'm hearing this thing. I'm writing a book also, and I hear that you're writing a book. What is that? I climbed the wrong side of the mountain, something to that? Can we?
I climbed the wrong mountain to discover the right path.
Yeah. I climbed the wrong mountain to discover the right path. And I've said on the show many times before, to my previous viewers and in episodes, prison was good for me. It actually cleaned me out of the street corner thinking, the hustler's mentality, the type of me first, I don't care what you think or feel type of perspective. And, as I hear you talk and share what you're doing and what the organization is doing, as well as how the industry is changing, as well as the technology that's coming, you got a good handle on it. And it's good to hear that you place yourself in position where you don't need to be a super genius to get this thing taken care of. You can hire people who have a passion for this stuff and get them to come along on the idea with the opportunity to help provide a service that's going to make it better for everyone. And when you mentioned earlier that yes, John Q. Public, there are going to be more of us. We have over 2,000 individuals coming home to 5 zip codes every month. 62,000 of us are going back into the criminal justice system every year. And so we're getting better at what we're doing is with the assimilation. Organizations like Second Opportunity, I need to throw my name in there just to, for my own vanity's sake. Inmates For Change, we are breaking bondage of destructive thinking. I like to add one mind at a time, and we're offering the services that an individual can get to get them going. Because one of the things that I hear a lot in the industry is this individual can't tell me anything because they don't know where I've been. And I'm hearing you express you've done more time than I did. I may have been arrested more times than you have. I'm speaking between you and me, Augie, but it's still the same at the end. The dedicated focus of energy, discipline, and determination that it took while I was away to make sure that I'm going to prepare myself now so I don't have to come back into a situation like this. I'm tired of missing birthdays. I'm tired of looking at family members grow up through photographs. I'm tired of talking to them through glass or Someone's telling me if I get up out of this chair, your meeting is over. The visit is over. They can't come. And the food is subpar. And not to mention the stuff that goes on day to day inside of a prison. You know, I'm preaching to the preacher now on this one, but all of this stuff is still in me. It's still there. You know, I'm not traumatized by it, but I do have memory recollection when I see something on TV that shows industry related type of expression. It draws in sometimes a memory of where I had come through to get to where I'm going. And I'm still headed to where I'm going. So the story is not over. And this one, that you may have mentioned this at the beginning, but I want you to give us a refresher. How did you get started in the social services / reentry industry?
So, as I've said a couple of times, I started to work on this material, and when I had about a year remaining in my sentence, I had a cellmate he was having a visit, and I was in the federal system, and I was up in Minnesota. I did all my time in 2 different prisons in Minnesota. And so he was having a visit. I was having a visit the same weekend. And it ends up the guy that was visiting went to Marist High School on the south side, which is where I went to school. So we started to talk, and he asked me what I was going to do when I got out, because at that point I'd already been locked up almost 12 years. And I told him I'd been involved in a community outreach program, and I was going out and giving talks about business ethics and the mistakes I made, and how some of those lessons are transferable. Long story short, Jones, he offered me a job, and it was like the weight of the world came off my shoulders. I mean, he came back 10 months later and said, I'm going to hire you when you get back to the halfway house, and I was going to do corporate training. And so I got back to the halfway house in July of 2017. I started working for him the last week of July 2017. And after about 2 months, his father is really a legend in the nonprofit world in Chicago. His name, Tom Owens. Sadly, he died early this year, but he founded the CARA program, and CARA is well known.
Yeah.
I think they're in their 30th year, 29th year, something like that. Anyway, I met Mr. Owens. We went for lunch, and he asked if he could help me. And I told Mr. Owens I'd be honored. And he said, I have a relationship with Sheriff Tom Dart, and he knew what I was doing while I was away and the class I was teaching, what have you. And he said, let me introduce you. So he introduced me by email to Sheriff Dart. I've never actually met Sheriff Dart, but the next week I was in there meeting with their programming staff, and they asked me to bring some of the material with me that I had been using. And there were 4 or 5 sheriffs in the room, and Dr. Gubser, who's in charge of all the programming. And before the meeting ended, she looked at me and she said, will you do this here? We don't have anything like this. And I got to tell you, we don't have money in the budget to pay you, but we really could use this. And so I thought about it, but I knew what I was going to do. And so I started doing that. And that started the first week of January 2018. And I've been going into Cook County ever since. And, we've been, because of COVID right now, I've been going there for a number of months, but that'll be restarting at some point. Anyway, you talked before about how things may trigger you. Every time I pull up at Cook County and I see that razor wire, it right away, I mean, there's a different feeling. Going inside, there's a different feeling. And yes, to know that I'm going to walk out of there at the end of the day, that's a different feeling too. But it certainly, it brings things up in me that, and a lot of times, I'll be honest with you, the one emotion I point to is sadness. I look at the men, and I do some work with women too, and inside, and it makes me sad. It makes me sad that this is how things go, and that it's not about people leaving and not coming back. It's exactly the opposite. People leave and they're coming back. And so that's how I got started. I like the idea that I really feel like my calling found me. Yeah. But now I'll tell you that I can't see doing anything different. This is where I want to be. This is where I should be. That's right. This is where my path has led me. And I can't see doing anything beyond this, because I think that there's a real need for it.
Man, you're going to make me cry, man. You're going to make me cry. I'm telling you, man. That is a heart-wrenching story, but because I can relate on every component that you brought up, every aspect of it. You know, going over there to the prison, going by the courts. Gutsborough, who's over there at the county jail, and I did some volunteer work over there with them as well. You know, and it's just it's almost like a wave of people without an end. It's so crowded and so many people. So here's something that I want to also offer here. Over the years, what stands out more than anything else with your accomplishments? What over the years, just if it's one, fine. If it's more than one, okay. But keep in mind, we're only on for an hour, so we only got about 15, 20 minutes left.
I don't, I say my story is still being written.
Yeah.
I will tell you this, I do a lot of work in Kane County Jail, and the sheriff out there is a guy named Ron Hain, and he's a very forward-thinking, dynamic guy. And he introduced me at a banquet, and he said, Augie is our rock star. And I told him, Ron, I am exactly the opposite of anybody's rock star. I like working with the guys. I like being in there and listening and sharing and hopefully bringing hope with me and what have you. You know, the accomplishments like you, Jones, the accomplishments that I feel are when I hear from people or I see that light bulb's gone on, or that they get to work or they get into a training program and things change for them. And so for me, that's, I take that as an accomplishment through somebody else.
Yeah, I get it. The Lake County Sheriff out there being forward thinking, Ron, and I've met Tom Dart, the Cook County Sheriff, the Sheriff of Cook County, and he's a forward thinker. He's a great guy. He's very personable. He's easily approachable. He's got some good listening skills, And I was amazed. I've only met him once, and I didn't get a chance to run into him again for about 2 or 3 years. And he says, Jones. And I was like, wow, I know this guy sees 1,000 people a year, easy,
Right.
and endless meetings and all kind of phone calls and this kind of thing. And it just felt good to be recognized and remembered as well. So it sounds like you surrounded yourself with some real good people, and, your work is shining example to us all. What would you offer, or what would you like to offer, as way of any advice to individuals who are coming through reentry?
Have a plan.
Have a plan.
Have a plan.
Solid plan.
I like to say that when we have a background, we always need a plan B, because we never know what might crop up that prevents us with our primary plan. So there should be a plan B, sometimes even a plan C.
That's right.
But have a plan. And the other thing is, don't hesitate to ask for assistance. And that's what you and I are for, people that are out, that have walked that path. So if you feel like sometimes things are becoming overwhelming, which is not unusual, talk to somebody, have a mentor, be involved in a peer support group, whatever it might be, but don't be afraid to ask for help. I can't find a job, ask somebody to help you with that. I'm really struggling settling in with my children, ask somebody for help with that, whatever it might be.
That's great. Let me take a second again, Augie, give you a chance to catch your breath. I want to put up your contact information one more time before we close. And we've got probably about 15 minutes left, if that. And going from what I see, my producer is saying, no, we don't have it. Show me how many minutes I got left, producer. This is Augie Ghilarducci. Okay, I'm down to about 7 minutes. Augie is the Vice President of Training and Development. Call him by phone, individuals who are out there viewing, 847-257-2713. We can also give Augie a tap on that email at augie@secondop.com. And then the website, of course, which is up and running, and more to come for all of us who are out there, secondop.com. Let me take a minute, Augie, and now that we've got like 5 minutes left or less, would you like to acknowledge anyone or send a shout out to an organization before we sign off?
Sure. So Leanne, my wife, stayed with me the whole time. Been an inspiration and really the support
Now you're going to cry now, right? Now you're going to cry.
Yeah. Professionally, Dan Efren, who is the executive director of Second Opportunity, he made this all a reality. He turned us into a real business that can really operate. We've developed a team, Donna, Marlon, Yakov, Chico, Liz, and Aaron, that are helping to get the material and to put it onto a website and do all these other things. And I'm just grateful for those organizations that have opened the doors to the idea that somebody that's been locked up can contribute to their population, whether it's those that are currently or formerly incarcerated, and have opened the doors to welcome us in to do our programming.
That's it. Okay. And now, are there any special announcements or events that are coming?
We do have some things coming up. So starting next week, I'll be doing some presentations inside a couple of different Illinois Department of Correction prisons. It'll all be done by WebEx. So I think there's like 3 or 4 consecutive weeks. I'll be in Vienna, and then I'll be in Lawrenceville, those 2 places. I've got some things coming up actually down in Tennessee, in Nashville and Knoxville, that have 2 large county jails, and we're going to go talk to them about having our material on the tablets and then doing some of the stuff, remotely on a virtual basis to do training there. I'm doing work with an organization called Fully Free. It's an initiative of Heartland Alliance, and it's fascinating stuff. It's a great group. Everybody that I'm involved with is formerly incarcerated. I've been asked to be on the governing board. And what it does is it identifies all the barriers that are created that continue to impede our development even after our sentence is served. Different licenses we can't get, different obstacles that are placed in our way. So what we're doing right now, this is a new initiative, but what we're doing right now is really raising awareness about what all these are. There are 1,190 different laws on the books that prevent us from employment.
That's right.
And after we finished our sentence, could be 30 years ago you finished, and those laws still apply to you.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful to be involved with that, and there's going to be a launch event coming up within the next couple of months. So that's something that I'm involved in right now.
Well, congratulations on all of that you listed. I also want to say to you, I know you were doing some work over at Above and Beyond with Dan Hostetler. Tell me what you did over there. And we're closing out. We got about 3 minutes left. Give me all the highlights without dragging it out.
Well, I did some work. I've been going into Above and Beyond doing our programming. It's a substance abuse recovery center on Lake Street, Lake in Sacramento. I've been going in there for a couple of years doing our programming. And at one point they asked at the beginning of this year if I would serve as the interim director of housing and employment. And so Dan Hostetler is great. Sherry Gibson is great. They made me feel welcome, and I'm proud of the work that we did. Finding housing is a real difficult thing. And the reality is that at the end of the 6-month engagement, they asked me to continue on. And I told them I wasn't going to, because my heart is doing what I do with people that are currently and formerly incarcerated.
Sure.
And to do housing, that's full time. That's minimum 40 hours a week. So I still have a good relationship with Above and Beyond. I go in there regularly, and I'm available to help them place their people in jobs and so on and so forth. But terrific organization. They do great work. They provide outpatient services 5 days a week, and they don't turn anybody away.
Wow. I'll tell you, Augie, as I watch all the happenings that are going on around you and what is the things that you're involved in, at least hope for me, that I know that, hey man, I don't need to try to act like I'm the know-it-all or I'm the guy that's on top of this thing and I've got it all down. I tell clients all the time, man, I'm 2 poor decisions away from being locked up again, and I don't ever want to do that. So one of the high points in the conversation that we just had, you mentioned, ask somebody, raise your hand, let someone know what's going on. You're running through some type of challenges, you're running through some hopelessness almost. ask somebody to give you an opportunity to help yourself by, you got to let this out. We cannot read your mind. And this is one of the great things that we have that we're going through here with Second Opportunity, L3C, and Inmates for Change. I want to say to you all, thank you so much for listening in and viewing in as well. I didn't want to put any of the thing for Inmates for Change up on this one because this show is dedicated to Augie with the Second Opportunity, L3C. And I think I did the right thing today, letting you take all of the limelight and the spotlight as well, because what we want to do is get more information out there about what's available to individuals. A grandmother called me yesterday. Actually, she's a great grandmother. And she was telling me about how this thing was not affecting, how the COVID was beating up on her kids who were trying to find work. So we're going to get, at this point, we're going to just have to close the show. But what I did want to say is, Augie, thank you so much for coming on board. You are truly my brother in this struggle. Believe that, man. And Leanne, I know we're going to put an application in for sainthood for you. I know you took her through it, man. I'm going to talk to you later. Thank you all for coming, listening in and viewing. And Augie, thanks so much for your time. Have a great day.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, buddy.
Appreciate it very much.
Good night, all.